All right, everybody, welcome back. We are ready for another deep dive.
I'm excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
This one's super interesting. It's been on my list for a long time, and I'm really happy we're finally doing The Richest Man of Babylon.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, so The Richest Man of Babylon, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, is a book written almost 100 years ago now.
Yep.
And it's basically a collection of parables
Mhm.
that are all set in ancient Babylon, and they all revolve around, like, finances and building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're, interesting stories, but they also contain a lot of advice about personal finance that's like shockingly relevant today,
Wow.
even though it's, set in ancient Babylon and written almost 100 years ago.
Right, and I think what makes this one really interesting is that it does use those stories, like you were saying, those parables. So it's not just like, a straight up personal finance book.
Right.
You're actually getting stories about, chariot racing and brickmaking and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
you can see like the human struggles with money are the same,
Yes, totally.
even back then.
And it's presented in a way that's really memorable and really like helps you like internalize some of the principles.
Totally agree.
So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the first like big takeaway from The Richest Man in Babylon? If you had to pick one.
Okay, so if I had to pick just one, I think the thing that everybody quotes from this is pay yourself first.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Oh, absolutely. That's like the
The big one.
that's the big one.
Yeah.
So Arcad, right, the richest man in Babylon,
Yes.
he's basically saying you need to save at least 10% of your income.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to do it before anything else, like before you pay your bills, before you buy groceries, before you do anything fun,
Yes.
put that 10% away.
And that can be hard, I think, for a lot of people to wrap their head around because they're thinking, well, if I have all this money coming in and then I got to pay rent and I got to do this and that,
Right.
then it's like, oh, there's only this much left.
Right.
But his point is that, like, no, you take 10% out right off the top.
Right. And then you figure out how to live off the rest.
Exactly. And I think that's a really interesting psychological shift
Yes.
that the book kind of helps you with is, like you said, you're not like, well, I'll see what I have left at the end of the month to save. It's like that 10% is already spent.
Yeah.
It's an investment in your future self.
It's gone. It's already allocated.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of it kind of like if you are saving up for a vacation.
Okay.
That's how I do it. I have a separate account that's my vacation fund, and every time I get paid, 10% of my paycheck goes straight into that.
Nice.
And so it's like it's gone. It's not even like, oh, I have to like resist the temptation to spend that money because it's already mentally spent.
I love that. And I think, for people who are maybe just starting out with their personal finances,
Yeah.
10% can seem like a really big number.
Yeah, it's a big chunk.
Yeah. So, even if you can't quite swing 10% right away, just start small.
Yes.
Even 1%, 2%, and gradually increase it over time.
Exactly.
But the important thing is making it a habit.
Yes, make it like an automatic thing.
Exactly, like paying rent.
Right.
It has to get done, and you're not like, oh, do I pay rent this month or not?
Yeah, and I'm sure we've all had those months where we're like, oh man, money's really tight. I don't know if I can pay rent.
Oh, yeah.
But like you do because you have to.
You got it, yeah.
So making it a habit, and then as your, hopefully as your income increases,
Yeah.
Gradually increasing that percentage.
Exactly.
All right, so we're paying ourselves first. We're taking that 10% off the top. Now we have like 90% of our income left to live on.
Right.
And so that brings us to the next big principle, I think, which is living below your means,
Yes.
which is something that Arcad talks about a lot in the book.
He does.
And it's interesting because I think people sometimes interpret that as like, oh, you have to like be a monk and, never spend any money on anything fun.
Right. You have to be miserable to be wealthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not really what he's saying.
No, not at all.
He's saying like you have to understand the difference between your needs
Needs and wants.
and your wants,
Yes.
and to be very conscious about your spending and not just like spend money on whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if our Cod were alive today, I think he would be like shaking his head at
Oh, totally.
online shopping.
Oh my God, yeah.
And like, the need to like have the newest iPhone every time it comes out.
Totally. Or, if your neighbor gets a new car, then you have to go out and get a new car.
Right, exactly. Keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah. So it's really about aligning your spending with your values
Absolutely.
and your long-term goals,
Right.
and not just like getting caught up in that like consumerism trap, I think.
Totally. And it's not about like depriving yourself.
Correct.
It's just about being mindful
Yes.
about where your money is going.
I think it's helpful to like sit down to make a budget
Yeah.
and really like look at where your money's going and be like, okay, is this actually important to me?
Right.
Or am I just spending money on this because, I saw an ad for it or whatever.
Yeah. Or because I feel like I should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's like one thing that you think people could cut back on that would make a big difference in their finances?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it's eating out.
Yes.
I'm guilty of that too.
Me too. I mean, it's just so easy
It is.
to just, you know, be tired at the end of the day and be like, I don't feel like cooking. Let's just order takeout.
Yeah, let's just get a pizza or something.
But that really adds up.
It really does.
If you do that like even a couple times a week,
Multiple times a week.
you're talking about hundreds of dollars a month.
Totally.
Okay, so let's say we're paying ourselves first. We're living below our means.
We've got our budget.
Got our budget under control.
Yep.
We're saving some money now.
Yes. Know what do we do with it?
Yeah. What do we do with this money?
So this is where investing comes in.
Yeah. And Arcot has some really specific advice about investing.
He does.
Which is interesting because, he's writing this
Yeah.
almost 100 years ago, and the investment landscape was very different
Very different.
than it is today.
Yeah,
But a lot of the principles still apply.
absolutely. Yeah.
So what would you say are like the big takeaways from Arcot's advice on investing?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is that Arcad was all about informed and cautious investing.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't about throwing your money at any random scheme that came along. He was like, you need to really understand
Yeah.
where you're putting your money.
And I think for him, back then that meant literally talking to people.
Going and seeing it.
Yeah, going and seeing it. And, if he was going to invest in a brick-making operation, he'd want to go see the brick-making operation.
Totally. Yeah.
Talk to the brickmaker.
Kick the bricks.
Yeah, exactly. Kick the bricks.
Make sure they're good quality.
Like, see how the business is run. And so...
Due diligence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Due diligence.
So today that would be like, if you're investing in a company, doing your research, reading the financial statements,
Right.
understanding what the company does not just like.
Not buying some meme stock that you heard about on,
Or not following the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually understanding.
So I think that's a really important principle. It's like,
Yeah.
don't just jump into something because it sounds exciting or because, everybody else is doing it.
Right. Yeah. FOMO is dangerous
Yeah, exactly.
when it comes to investing.
And that kind of ties into another one of his principles, which is continuous learning.
Oh, for sure.
It was like, you have to constantly be educating yourself
Yes.
about, personal finance and about business and about investing.
Absolutely.
And luckily, we live in a time where that's so much easier than it was in ancient Babylon.
Oh my gosh, so much easier. We're so lucky.
Right. We have the internet.
We have the internet.
We have books. We have podcasts. We have courses.
All the information at our fingertips.
It's incredible.
Yeah, if Arcad could see the resources we have today,
Oh, he'd be blown away.
he'd be amazed.
I mean, he was all about talking to the wisest men in Babylon and, getting their advice.
Right? Yeah, mentorship was huge for him.
And we basically have that at our fingertips now.
Right. We can access the world's experts
Yeah.
through a few clicks.
It's incredible. So,
Easy.
yeah. And I think I'm constantly learning new things about personal finance,
Yeah.
even though I've been doing this for a long time.
You're changing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always new things to learn, new strategies, new ideas. I recently learned about index funds.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Yeah, and it totally changed my investing strategy.
Awesome.
So it's you can always be learning and improving.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about, saving. We talked about living below our means. We talked about investing wisely.
Mm.
And then another big theme in the book is about protecting your wealth.
Yes.
Once you've earned it,
Right? It's not enough to just earn it.
It-
You have to keep it.
you got to hold on to it.
Yeah,
And Arcad has a lot to say about that.
he does.
What would you say are some of the big takeaways there?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is avoiding scams,
Yes.
right? He talks a lot about that.
You think that's a modern thing?
Right.
But no.
Shady people have been around forever.
They were there in ancient Babylon
Oh, yeah.
trying to trick people out of their money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he was very big on being wary of get rich quick schemes and,
Yeah, anything that sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he is.
And so how do you think people can protect themselves from that today?
I mean, it goes back to due diligence.
Yeah.
Really researching opportunities before you jump into them.
Yeah.
If somebody is promising you 20% returns on some investment,
Yeah.
that's a red flag
Yeah, that's a big red flag.
that you should really dig deeper
Yeah.
and not be afraid to ask tough questions.
What happens if things go wrong?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's the downside risk?
Yeah. And don't be afraid to walk away if something feels off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
All right. So we've talked about saving. We've talked about living below our means. We've talked about investing wisely. We've talked about protecting our wealth.
You're doing great.
I think that brings us to kind of like the ultimate goal of all of this, which is making your money work for you.
Yes. Passive income.
Passive income.
Yeah.
So this is the idea that, instead of just like trading your time for money,
Hmm.
You work a job, you get paid, you work another job, you get paid. You're kind of like constantly having to work to earn money.
Right.
But the idea of passive income is that you can set things up so that your money is actually generating more money for you.
Right. Working for you.
Yeah, even when you're not actively working.
Even while you sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the dream.
Yeah, it is the dream, right? So what does Arcad say about that?
So he talks about it in terms of like planting seeds.
Okay.
So you're planting these seeds, which are your investments.
Mm-hmm. And then over time, those seeds grow into like a fruit-bearing tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then that tree is producing fruit for you.
Okay.
Which is like passive income.
So like dividends from stocks.
Yeah, dividends, rental income from real estate, things like that.
So what would you say are like the best ways for like modern day Babylonians to start building that kind of passive income stream?
Yeah, so I think it starts with those core principles we've been talking about.
Okay.
Paying yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
living below your means so you have money to invest,
Right.
and then investing wisely, right? So once you have those things in place, then you can start exploring different investment vehicles that can help you generate passive income.
What are some examples of those?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, dividend-paying stocks, those are great. You can also invest in real estate.
Okay.
Either rental properties or, REITs,
Yeah.
real estate investment trusts.
And those are like publicly traded.
Yeah, they're like stocks.
Yeah, that invest in real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
You can also start a side hustle that generates passive income.
Like what kind of things?
Yeah, so like maybe you create an online course.
Okay.
Or you write an ebook, or you create a product that you sell online.
So something that you kind of create once.
Right.
And then people can buy it over and over again.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're not having to trade your time for money.
Like that.
Yeah.
So many options.
There are so many options. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So just to kind of like bring it all back.
Bring it all home.
We've been talking about The Richest Man in Babylon.
It's classic.
And it's full of these like really powerful parables that teach us these principles about building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's, set in ancient Babylon and written almost 100 years ago, the principles are still so relevant today.
Shockingly relevant.
So let's just recap those principles really quickly.
Okay.
So number one, pay yourself first.
Yes.
Take 10% of your income off the top.
Before anything else.
Before anything else.
That's key.
And put it into savings.
Yes.
Number two, live below your means.
Needs versus wants.
Needs versus wants. Know the difference.
Be mindful.
Make a budget.
Yes. Track your spending.
Number three, invest wisely.
Due diligence.
Due diligence.
Don't fall for get-rich-quick schemes.
Don't buy meme stocks.
You're right.
Unless you really know what you're doing.
Unless you've done your research.
Number four, continuous learning.
Yes. Always be educating yourself.
The internet is your friend.
It is.
Use it wisely.
Yes.
And number five, protect your wealth.
Be wary of scam.
Be wary of scams. Ask tough questions.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to walk away if something feels off.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, and I think what's really amazing about these principles is that they apply whether you're starting with a little or a lot.
Absolutely.
It's about consistent action and smart choices.
It's about building those habits.
Yeah, exactly, building those habits.
Regardless of your income level.
So I guess to leave everybody with like a final thought, what is like one small step that someone could take today,
Okay.
inspired by Arcad's wisdom, to start building their own Babylon?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I think it could be as simple as like setting up an automatic savings transfer.
Okay.
So that 10% is automatically going into your savings account.
You don't even have to think about it.
You don't even have to think about it.
I love it.
Or it could be identifying one unnecessary expense that you can cut from your budget.
Okay.
Like maybe you're spending way too much on subscription boxes.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, we all are.
Like, I feel like I'm signed up for like 10 different subscription boxes
So many.
that I don't even use.
So pick one to cancel.
Exactly.
Or it could be picking up a book on investing.
Okay.
Or listening to a podcast about personal finance.
Yeah.
Just something to like start educating yourself.
I love it.
Yeah,
Every journey starts with a single step.
it does.
So pick one small step and take it today.
You got this.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah, this was fun.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
You see you then.
Bye.
Bye.